Okay, just for the sake of the recording, welcome everyone to Sigstore Office Hours. We're going to jump straight in, and I'm going to hand over to Mike Lieberman. Oh, and we've lost you. You look like you're on mute.
My bad. So yeah, give me 1 second here to pull up the pull request. And I will post it in chat here. Sorry, in the agenda there. So pull request 973 on Recore was merged, and so this now, and this is through Parth Patel and Mikhail earlier on had done a lot of work on this. And so this is to fix the bug where the Dizzy envelope for signed attestations were not being included in the Recore entry. So it meant that the attestation showed up in Recore, but you had no way of verifying the signature through Recore. And, you know, just to be clear, like, we recognize that verifying the signature through Recore is probably not the intended solution, but sometimes you want to go back and verify that, yes, the signature is both in Recore as well as, you know, whatever you have locally or in OCI or whatever. So that's been merged in. So that's there's so now for folks, just so that they know, there's now a v0.0.2, I think, of Intodo, of the Intodo type. So now if you want the Intodo type to actually include the signature, you would use that. This will obviously, I believe this requires a update to the actual Recore infrastructure. So I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is on getting that pushed out, but once that gets pushed out, then there's a few other things that are kind of coming down the line. I've had a PR that's been sort of sitting and waiting for attesting blobs, so that you can just sort of attest blobs and either keep the signature locally or also, in addition, push that out to Recore as well. And so that should be also coming down the line. But with that said, I think one of the big questions I have is just, I don't know exactly what other changes need to be made to some of the other pieces of Sigstore in order to kind of get that to get that interop.
Let's see. Does anyone on the call have some insights? Just seeing who's on today. No, we might not have enough of a quorum to get you an answer to that one today.
No problem. I'll reach out to some of the folks in Slack.
Yeah.
Sorry, was the question about when it's going to roll out? Or
it's a combination of both. So one is approximately when does this, let's say, roll out to staging, so we can start testing out some of it. And then the second piece is now that there is a new type in Recore for essentially it's like a signed version of Intodo. I don't know, you know, just to kind of inform folks, because I don't know what needs to be done in other Recore-based tools to support that. Sorry, not Recore, Sigstore tools to support that.
Yeah, and I think thanks for raising awareness, and either it looks like we're going to find out the hard way, or yeah, maybe we can get some folks' attention in through the Slack channel and see if there's anything that needs to be integrated to make sure that propagates properly. Great. All right, I'm gonna go back. Yeah, just a quick other update. I wanted to give folks, we had the call for papers for SigstoreCon close a few days ago, and just wanted to let you know we had 23 talks submitted. So yeah, super happy with that for a first time event. So thanks to everybody who put in a talk. The program committee has been busy going through all the abstracts and scoring things, and the next stage is for that schedule to start taking shape. So we're going to figure out the number of slots and just work out what the program should be. So as some target dates, the CFP notifications will go out on September 12th. And then the schedule itself should be ready to be announced in a couple of weeks on September 13th. And yeah, I know folks like to see what the talks are before they register, but registration is open from now. It's not a huge room. We have space for up to a max of 200 folks. So yeah, do go ahead and register. But yeah, if you need to see the program, that will be out in a couple of weeks, if that helps you make your decision. Okay, so that's the main things. But yeah, as I mentioned, office hours, happy to hear introductions from folks who are using Sigstore. If you want to say hi, please feel free to introduce yourself. Or if you have any specific questions around Sigstore or its usage or any of the tools in the toolkit, please go ahead, feel free to use this time. Anybody like to introduce themselves or bring up a topic?
Happy to say hello. Hi.
Great. Hi.
Steve Jagger. I haven't been on one of these before, but I've recently, as much as a few weeks ago, been assigned internally Get Good at Sigstore. So this seemed like the sensible place to be. I have to write. I was speaking with John Speed Myers about creating automation for verifying the use of Sigstore, verifying the correct use of Sigstore. So that's part of what my job is. So this is why I'm sitting here hunting in the background, trying to figure out how best to do that. And that was why I had a very good chat with John, and he recommended coming to these meetings. So that's it. I'm just saying hello.
And are you able to say more of the use case of the space you're operating in?
Well, we have loads of open source. I work for Bridge Crew, which is Chris McLeod, and I'm actually conveniently wearing a t-shirt, which is, I work on an open source project called Chekhov, and I work on another one called Your. Your is written in Go, and it's a perfect candidate for salsa verification in Sigstore. Like, we want to make it so that it's perfect. And at the same time, we write verifications through Chekhov. So we can use Chekhov to scan our own repo to make sure that we've done things right. It's just a case of defining what good looks like or what correct looks like. Feels like it's a little bit in flux. So we've already kind of gone ahead and written some beta rules just to verify attestations and use of SBOMs and use of the Sigstore cosign and all of this, just to make sure that they're present, but only for containerized scenarios. So at the moment I'm working on rules for Go. So I'm just trying to keep track of everything that's going on. And at the same time, if there's anything I can contribute to and help with.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds super interesting. And I do think there's a lot of people in the same boat who are in that stage of figuring out what does good look like and what does it look like for each person's specific context and requirements. And sometimes that applies to other people and sometimes it doesn't. Which is why typically at these meetings, we do like to have presentations from folks who are in various stages of adopting Sigstore. So we've had some from Edgeless Systems and some Python libraries. So what I would suggest is, as soon as you're comfortable kind of talking more about it or sharing more of what you've done, I think we would really welcome a 5 to 10 minute presentation of, okay, here's my use case, here's what Chekhov does, these are the things we've done so far, these are the things we're considering doing, here's kind of the things we are trying to figure out. And I find that's usually really good for getting people to give input, or even for people saying, wow, oh, that's a clever way of doing something, thanks for sharing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, happy to do that whenever. Not now, but
No.
at any time in the foreseeable future, because we've just kind of feature flagged our first set of Sigstore salsa checks. So I can show you what we've done. You could say you've got it totally wrong, and that'd be great feedback, even if it's right or wrong.
No, I think that would be great. And yeah, if you're happy in maybe, let's say, a couple of weeks to kind of talk about, what salsa levels are you going for? How did you decide? And where does Sigstore fit in with that? I think that would be, yeah, would love to hear that.
All right, absolutely.
Right, I'm putting it down on the agenda for next time. But yeah, I'll follow up with you offline with many more details. But
cool.
thanks for jumping in.
No problem.
Anyone else wants to say hello, I don't automatically volunteer you on the spot, but yeah, Stephen looked, yeah, that sounded really interesting. Right, anybody else want to say hello?
I can jump in. I'm Meredith. I recently kind of joined the project. I recently joined GitHub, and so kind of contributing from there. I kind of had a general question as someone just kind of joined the project and is looking to contribute. Are there any kind of good first issues that contributors recommend? I've read through some issues on the Recor and Cosine repos, but I was just curious if there are some that people think maybe are a good first issue, or if there are any kind of issue tags I should sort by.
Yeah, no, first of all, welcome. Glad you're joining. And is there any specific, are you working like on Sigstore JS or just in any of the projects in general? Is there a preference you have?
Any of the projects, I think I'm looking mostly at Cosine and Recor at the moment.
Yeah, I do think there are some, and maybe I'll shut up in a minute and let others chime in. I think we do have a few good first issues, but having said that, maybe I'm not sure how up to date some of those are. So maybe I can let some of the project leads jump in. Vile, can I put you on the spot?
Sorry, I was having troubles muting there. Well, unmuting myself. What was the question?
Are they good first issues on projects, and which ones might be? Do you have any indicators of specific ones which Meredith could jump in on or take a look at?
Yeah. Do you have a particular interest? I mean, it's kind of like all of Sigstore, and then there is some of the other ones that are maybe like cosine tools. You know, do you have a particular interest? Usually, when you have interesting things or things you're interested in, those are fun things to work on. So I can go ahead and try to go and take a look at some of the repos, at least to go and make sure that we have tagged them. But yeah, take a look. I think we have tried to tag some of them at least, but so.
Yeah, there is a good first issue label. I think it is woefully out of date. So I don't know if someone on our end wants to take a scan through. I don't want to volunteer myself. Unfortunately, I don't have time at the moment, but I will poke around in Slack and see if we can get someone to look through. Another thing that I would recommend also is there are a bunch of questions asked by people in Slack, and I've found that trying to figure out the answers to them is a really useful exercise, even if you aren't the first person to get there, just in terms of by the time you can answer questions people have about how to use the service, you like definitely have learned something. And so I've done a lot of independent verification of answers that people have given. And I've found that really useful. And if you happen to be the first, that's also a great way to contribute to the community. And I think just as valuable as a code contribution, if not more in many cases.
Okay, thank you. I will take a look at that.
Yeah, and my quick scanning shows that they aren't very many good first issues at all. So maybe that's something, yeah, we can look at as a community and get better at doing.
Yeah, and that is just the cosine repo there. So just that, I guess that's my point. It's just like there's so many repos out there that it can be a bit unwieldy to go and only look at one of them. So again, like feel free to jump on the Slacks. We are super responsive there. So
okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Right. Okay, I see Trinette, you have your hand raised. Go.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity so that I can have some questions here. I don't know how much time I have, but yeah, quickly let me tell about my story. So I want to provide, like, we are a code signing provider, code signing as a service provider for our organization. So a part of that, I wonder, we are using Red Hat way of PGP based signatures as of now. So from that, we want to move it to Sigstore based signature. On the signature, Sigstore based signature, I was using I was going through all the documentation and all. Yeah, when I use a OIDC authentication, the certificate issued by Fulcio, which is all good, that is working fine with it. But in most cases, no one will sign manually. Like 99% of them will sign it from some CI/CD pipelines in automated way. For those, how do they how do the certificate was issued? So are they at present, are they signing with a anonymous key? That's my first question.
Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, I can answer that. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Yeah, it's a really great question. The sort of best possible answer to that is to do something like what happens in GitHub Actions today. So what that is that GitHub Actions actually exposes to the environment that's running the GitHub Actions job a token for OIDC that lets someone lets that job authenticate as sort of an identity that corresponds to the job itself. So it basically identifies the running job. So the workflow that you can use in combination with Sigstore is you can take that token to Fulcio in Sigstore. Fulcio will give you a certificate that basically says, I, Fulcio, promise that whoever owns this public key it has the identity corresponding to this repo and SHA and job on GitHub Actions. And the public key will come from the job itself. It'll generate a temporary key. It'll take this token and that key to Fulcio. Fulcio will give it that certificate. And then it can basically do a one-off signature with a short-lived anonymous key that can be traced back to the CI system in that particular build. And so that's kind of the ideal case. If your CI system is not GitHub Actions and doesn't support that, and we're trying to expand support for that to a number of other CI systems as well. So feel free to ask in Slack or here if we have support for other systems. But our hope is to expand that approach elsewhere. Otherwise, you can do something like use your CI system secrets manager to give access to a longer-lived private key and use that as the identity for signing things. So I know that was a lot of information. Did that make sense?
Yeah, a lot of things. So do we have any documentation for this? Like.
Yes, with an asterisk, I will say. I will try. Trinath, are you in Slack?
Yes, I am on Slack.
Okay, I will try to dig something up and post it in the Slack if I can find something.
Okay, I'll directly ping you once. See if you can respond on that. And see, like, if GitHub Action is not the way, so if I'm signing an image from CI/CD pipeline, that will be that key is not signed with. There is no capability we can assign that key with Fulcio, right? That is not possible as the browser is not available.
Yeah, so Fulcio, you need to somehow be able to successfully authenticate to Fulcio before Fulcio is willing to sign off on a certificate and say this key belongs to this identity, right? And that's what makes it secure.
Yes.
So if your CI/CD system supports some other OIDC provider that the public Fulcio instances support, you can just use that. If you have access to OIDC tokens for some OIDC provider that the public Fulcio does not support, you can run a private Fulcio instance or file an issue to try to get support for that provider added. And then you can do that exchange. But at some level, you do need to do that exchange of a token for a certificate with that identity.
But in the future, can we expect that we can sign it from CI/CD without all this OID. Like OIDC, definitely it has to be there OIDC. But is there any other way?
Yeah. So I guess two things. One is what we expose to you as a user is considerably simpler than that. If you just use Cosign, for instance, and some of the default Cosign Docker image builds from CI/CD on a supported platform like GitHub, it'll pick up the credentials automatically from the environment. And it'll, like, all of this will just work magically, and you as the user don't have to think about it. In the long term, our hope is to make more CI/CD providers support something like this. It doesn't have to be OIDC. We like OIDC because it's already implemented in Fulcio, but it doesn't have to be OIDC. But we need to be able to authenticate that sort of workload, that build job from CI/CD before we're comfortable like issuing a certificate for it.
Okay.
And Trinette, can I ask, are there any specific CI/CD systems that would be more interesting to you than the others?
Actually, we have a lot. We have a Travis, Jenkins. There are a lot of Hiboria. There are a lot of internal CI/CD pipelines we use. So,
Okay.
And do you have any future plan to sign a Windows executables? Of course, like that is how we sign those with a sign tool. And jar, we sign a jar files with a jar signer. Are these will be signed by Sigstore in the future?
So I just posted something in Slack or in the chat in this call. That's a link to an issue. I mean, we can sign anything. The question is whether Windows will accept it.
Yeah, that does not yeah. We can sign as a blob, but blob it does not work. Jar signer, Java application does not support, and Windows Defender will also not support a blob signing. So.
Yep. And so I don't know if Windows Defender lets you configure your set of trusted CAs. It would be possible in theory to add the Fulcio root into a Windows Defender or the analogs sort of trust root, in which case things should work. But
no, like this has attached to the signature. Windows and jar signs has attached to the signature, not like a detached to the signature.
Format stuff. Yeah, formatting in terms of attaching the signature. We may or may not. I don't know how much that's been implemented. I would encourage you to check in the Java channel on Slack for more information on best practices there. I know there's a lot of people interested in making Sigstore work with jars and so on. And
understood. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, great questions. And I think, I mean, the plans are we eventually want to support all sorts of different flows and have integrations with these things. So it is super interesting to hear what cases people care about to help us prioritize. And yeah, as Zach mentioned, definitely lots of work happening actively in the Java space in the short term. Great, thanks for those questions. Matthias, let's go to your questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Matthias. I have a follow-up question on the question from Trinat, specifically to OIDC. So we leverage Office 365 with an Azure AD connected to it. And I tried to use Fulcio with our organization on it, but it didn't work out. And I was wondering if we want to use OIDC with our own Azure AD OAuth that is set up, is that possible? And if that is possible, does it mean that if I provide my OIDC in my CI/CD environment with my Azure AD, that I can set something up like this?
give other people an opportunity to speak because I've been jabbering, but I can take this if no one else does. Yeah. So it's a great question. I think in the long run, it's unlikely that we are going to add support for everyone's individual Azure ID OIDC provider, just because that doesn't necessarily scale. We'd be open to options that kind of, like if Azure ID all kind of falls under a similar bucket, we might be able to do something. But in the very short term, if it has to happen organization by organization, we're not interested in doing that in the public instance. However, if your organization is willing to run full CO for themselves, configuring a new OIDC provider is a matter of configuration and not even any new code. And so that will certainly work in the short term. But I think that's everything. So, Vile, what you want to say?
Oh, no, I didn't want to interrupt you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think I hit my main points.
Okay. The only thing I was going to go and say is I wonder if we can do something there very similar to what we do with the meta issuers for the GKE clusters, if it's organized in such a way that I don't know how the Azure's OIDC is done, but I wonder if the meta issuer might be a way to go and do that.
Yeah, and I think you're noticing a lot of our unfamiliarity. I think the folks who are contributing most actively to this haven't happened to use Azure Identity. So if it's possible that we can kind of group them all together under the same issuer, and Azure Identity has one namespace of identities, like it does emails at different domains or something like that, we might be able to get that into the public instance.
Right. Okay, that's great. Yeah, from the perspective of the CI/CD environment, I've seen the initiative of the Spiffy Spire. I know that there are also people here that have been working with it, which would allow us to use OIDC in our own environment, even if it's not GitHub, right?
Yeah, and I can't speak to the details of that. I don't know if anyone else on the call is, but there is efforts to integrate Spiffy Spire with Sigstore. If no one on the call has done that, send me a DM in Slack, and I will direct you to the right people.
I've done it a while ago, and it did require some changes. And somebody just pinged me in the last 2 weeks about standing it up themselves, and they were able to get it working. I want to say it might have been Hayden, but it's been done at least once.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a blog post we need to drag out of people.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that I'm really excited seeing the development in the whole Sigstore project, following it a bit in the last 6 months, I think. So yeah, good work there.
Yeah, no, thanks for saying that, and yeah, thanks so much for coming along and asking these great questions and getting us to think about how to do them. Okay, this is great. Anybody else? Questions, comments, even introductions? Yeah, and as Zach says, if you're trying any of this and running into issues, please feel free to file bugs or post in Slack. And yeah, people are super responsive, and yeah, always welcome to join office hours as well, to discuss things face-to-face where it makes sense. Okay, let's leave it there for today, but thank you everyone for showing up and attending and asking such great questions. And yeah, next week we have the community meeting format, which is much more of a round robin of all the projects and documentation and outreach activities. And then in 2 weeks, we'll have the office hours format, which we're hoping to have a few folks lined up for demos, including yeah, Stephen. And yeah, if anybody is interested in doing a demo, maybe you have some Spiffy Inspire integrations with Sigstore, would love that. So yeah, do reach out to me through Slack, and I'll get you scheduled for 2 weeks or a future meeting. All right, let's save it there. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.